plant-based paisans. This is the Plant Father, and this is another edition of Plant-Based Mafia. And we are going to be reading out of the big book today, Prevent and Reverse Heart Disease by Dr. Esselstyn. And we are reading chapter 8, and the chapter is called Simple Steps. Before we start, I do want to emphasize and push this book. This is the Prevent and Reverse Heart Disease cookbook. This was actually written and created by Dr. Esselstyn's wife and daughter. And if you are looking to eat plant-based and reverse heart disease or any other ailment, get that book, buy it immediately. It's a fantastic book. So we're going to jump right in to chapter 8. Let's rock and roll. So you too can take control of your heart disease. This chapter, perhaps the most important in this book, for those who have heart disease or people who simply never want to develop it, will tell you exactly how to go about it. As you already have learned, my approach to this potentially lethal disease is vigorous and sustained. The technique I recommend is based entirely on my research and supported by 12 years of formal study and 20 years of continuing work with a diverse group of patients. And its success depends very much on acute attention to detail. In the words of Rupert Turnbull, a former surgeon at the Cleveland Clinic, an appropriate application of the method is no excuse for its abandonment. Here, once again, is the basic message of my research. No one who achieves and maintains total blood cholesterol of 150 milligrams and LDL levels below 80 milligrams using strict plant-based nutrition and, where necessary, low doses of cholesterol-reducing drugs experiences progression of heart disease. Many, in fact, are able to rejoice at clear medical evidence that they have actually reversed the effects of the disease. Recall that 3/4 of the population of this planet has never known heart disease. Your cholesterol metabolism and, with it, your resistance to insidious progression of heart disease can come to resemble those of rural Chinese, the residents of Okinawa, the Indians of North Mexico, the Papua Highlanders of New Guinea, and many native Africans. Among these peoples, because of the plant-based diets they have always consumed, heart disease is virtually unknown. I am convinced from my research and from counseling of hundreds of patients with heart disease that you, like them, can make yourself heart attack proof. In my initial interviews with all potential patients, I stressed the need for total commitment. My first request is that patients and their families eliminate their vocabulary from their thinking, from their most basic belief system. The phrase, "the little bit can't hurt." If you have retained only one fact from my explanations of the science behind this program, I hope it is this: that just a little bit of forbidden food, fats, dairy products, oils, and animal proteins can hurt and will. Think of it this way: if you adopt a healthy diet overall, but allow yourself to have fats just 2 or 3 times a week, that means you are abusing and injuring yourself on 150 or so days of the year. The moderation rationale will deprive you of the ultimate health benefits of plant-based nutrition. Just this little bit is enough to prevent you from remaining free of heart disease. If you understand and accept that premise, you are 95% of the way towards arresting your disease. Occasional exceptions, however modest, undermine results. I must confess, on every New Year's Eve, I consume 8 to 10 chocolate peanut butter cups. I am reminded of a breakfast several years ago when I was invited to speak at a conference on breast cancer. Joining me at the meal was a distinguished East Coast surgeon who was also participating in the conference. 18 months earlier, he had a heart attack. Even so, he was eating pancakes dripping with butter and side order of bacon. Seeing my eyebrows raised, the surgeon explained that he ordinarily ate carefully and allowed himself to go off his diet only on weekends when out of town or on special occasions. Since then, he has sustained a massive stroke, which deprived him of normal speech. The same vascular disease that narrows the coronary arteries to the heart narrows the arteries to the brain. With the understanding that total commitment is the order of the day, let's proceed to the rules of nutrition plan. First, the foods to avoid. Anything with a face or a mother. This includes meat, poultry, fish, and eggs. You may be aware that arginine and omega-3 fatty acids, which are essential to endothelial health and other bodily functions, are plentiful in fish. But there are other healthier sources of these substances, which I will discuss when I recommend dietary supplements for those on my program. Dairy products, that means butter, cheese, cream, ice cream, yogurt, and fat, even skim milk. Oils, all oils, including virgin oil, olive oil, and canola oil. Refined grains. These, unlike whole grains, have been stripped of much of their fiber and nutrients. You should avoid white rice and rich flour products, which are found in pastas, breads, bagels, and baked goods. Nuts. Those who have heart disease should avoid all nuts. Those without heart disease can consume walnuts in moderation because they can provide considerable omega-3 fatty acids, which are important for many essential bodily functions. But I am extremely weary of nuts, although short-term studies funded by nut companies show that they may positively affect good and bad cholesterol. I know of no long-term studies indicating that they can arrest and reverse heart disease, and patients may easily over-ingest them, elevating their cholesterol levels. Now, for the foods you are allowed, in fact encouraged to consume. This list, although it may not include many of the products you used to eat, permits you to fill your plate with a delicious and colorful array of foods brimming with fiber, nutrients, and antioxidants, all essential to heart health and overall well-being. Vegetables. This is by no means a complete list, but it gives you a good sense of the wide variety of vegetables that you can eat. Sweet potatoes, yams, potatoes, but never fried or prepared in any way that involves adding fat. Broccoli, kale, and spinach. Asparagus, artichokes, eggplant, radishes, celery, onions, carrots. Brussels sprouts, corn, cabbage, lettuce, peppers, bok choy, Swiss chard, and beet greens. Turnips and parsnips. Summer squashes, winter squashes, tomatoes, although strictly speaking, tomatoes are fruit. Cucumbers. Almost any vegetable you can imagine is legal on this plan, with a single exception for cardiac patients, avocados, which carry a high fat content usually for vegetables. Those without heart disease can eat avocados as long as their blood lipid levels are not elevated. Legumes. Beans, peas, and lentils of all kinds. This is a wide-ranging family of plants, and you are almost certain to discover delicious varieties you may never have encountered before embarking on this nutrition plan. Whole grains, whole wheat, whole rye, bulgur wheat, whole oats, barley, buckwheat, kasha or buckwheat, groats, whole corn, cornmeal, wild rice, brown white rice, popcorn, and less well-known whole grains such as couscous, kamut, a relative of durum wheat, quinoa, amarnath, millet, spelt, teff, grano, and farro. This is a marvelous variety of choices, both familiar and new. You can also eat cereals that do not contain added sugar and oil, old-fashioned oats, for instance, not the quick cooking variety, shredded wheat, and brand names like grape nuts. Bread should be whole grain and should not contain added oil. Whole grain pastas are allowed, those made from whole wheat, brown rice, spelt, and quinoa. Be careful about restaurant pasta. It is often egg-based and made from white flour, and there may be oil lurking in the marinara sauce. Fruits. Fruits of all varieties are permitted. A word of caution is in order. However, it is preferable to limit your fruit consumption to 3 pieces a day, or for berries and grapes, 3 servings, each about the size of a modest handful. It is best to avoid drinking pure fruit juices. Fruit and juice especially carries a high sugar content, and consuming too much of it rapidly raises the blood sugar. The body compensates to the sugar high with a surge of insulin from the pancreas, and the insulin in turn stimulates the liver to manufacture more cholesterol and may also elevate triglyceride levels. Be careful of sugar laden desserts, which can have the same effect. Beverages, water, seltzer water. Try adding small amounts of fruit juice to boost flavor. Oat milk, no fat soy milk, coffee, and tea. And alcohol is just fine in moderation. That's something my colleague and patient Joe Crow appreciates. There's an annual Robert Burns party that celebrates the poet and other things Scottish, and its a centerpiece is a feast featuring, among other things, haggis, which is made of the lungs, heart, and other laden innards of a sheep or calf. There's only one thing on the menu, Joe points out, that someone on my nutrition plan can consume: the Scotch whiskey. Ideally, most of the food you buy for the nutrition plan, much of it fresh produce, will not require labels. But for the products that do, be sure you study the ingredients very carefully. Here's why. In recent years, the USDA and the Drug Administration has forced the food industry to label fat content of foods more accurately than it did in the past. However, there is at least one very important loophole in the labeling rules. The FDA allows manufacturers to say that a product contains 0 fat per serving if one serving contains half a gram of fat or less. So imagine a box of donuts, each of which contains 1 gram of fat. Under the new system, the manufacturers simply state on the box that 6 donuts inside represent 12 servings, that a single serving equals half a donut. Since half a donut would contain just half a gram of fat, that can legally declare that the donut contains 0 fat per serving. That is ridiculous. That, of course, is nonsense. These no-fat products may contain less fat overall than higher octane counterparts, but hidden in no-fat salad dressings, cheese, and breakfast pastries, and spreads in the same old dairy, animal, and oil fat, and it will destroy your health. Be on the lookout for phrases like contains negligible amounts of fat. Scrutinize lists of ingredients for any mention of oil, of monoglycerides and diglycerides, of hydrogenated or partially hydrogenated oil, or glycerin. Remember, a pig with lipstick and earrings is still a pig. A year of consuming these 0 fat products will actually add pounds of lethal fat to your diet. Jim Trussa, one of the patients in my study, learned the hard way. For 6 careful years on the program, he never touched meat, dairy products, or oils, but suddenly his cholesterol spiked to over 200. It didn't take us long to figure out what the problem was. Jim had not been much of a fan of fruits and vegetables before joining the study, and in those first years of the program, he was always looking for ways to avoid them. When the no-fat products began appearing on the supermarket shelves, he was thrilled and happily added them to his diet. He reformed quickly after the cholesterol scare and had been back in control ever since, remaining at total cholesterol of 120. Truly, no-fat products are increasingly available, including some of the salad dressings, crackers, chips, pretzels, and cookies. Look carefully, scrutinize labels. Pay attention to the list of ingredients, and when in doubt, don't be shy about calling the manufacturers. A talk with the company's chief dietitian or medical consultant will give you a straight answer of fat content. That is something that I actually do. I have no problem calling up the company and scrutinizing them. So now you've committed yourself to eating only legal foods listed above and to avoiding all the categories I do not allow. Is there anything else you need to consume to make sure you're on the right course for optimal health? Consuming the full range of plant-based nutrition does not require supplemental calcium or multivitamin. However, for all those who are consuming plant-based nutrition, I recommend the following supplements. Vitamin B12, I favor 1,000 micrograms daily. Vitamin D, 3. Check your blood level. If your blood level is normal, it is not needed. If your blood level is below normal, I suggest 1 to 2,000 IU daily until the low normal blood level is reached. Omega-3 fatty acids. You can fulfill your daily requirement by consuming 1 to 2 tablespoons of flaxseed meal or 1 to 2 tablespoons of chia seeds each day, perhaps by sprinkling it over cereal. Be sure to refrigerate flaxseed meal. Cholesterol-lowering drugs. These must be taken under a physician's supervision. My only preference is one of the statin cholesterol-lowering drugs, which should be started when you begin the nutrition program. Together, the drug and your new way of eating will usually reduce your cholesterol level to less than 150 in just 14 days. With the help of your physician, you should monitor your progress over the first 2 months. I suggest 3 or 4 cholesterol measurements over that 2-month period. The first and third should be full cholesterol profiles, which include total cholesterol, HDL, LDL, triglycerides. The second and fourth can focus on total cholesterol alone. After 2 months, it is enough to have your cholesterol measured every 2 to 3 months. Why so often? This is your lifeline, giving your immediate feedback on how you're doing. If you reduce your total cholesterol below 150, you may, with your physician's assistance, reduce the dosage, in some cases eliminate it altogether. Why not just use the diet for a number of months and add the cholesterol reducing drug if it is needed to force the cholesterol below 150 threshold? With severe coronary disease, we don't always have the luxury of time. It is essential to start the healing of the endothelium, that vulnerable inner lining of the coronary arteries, as rapidly and completely as possible. Used as adjuncts to the nutrition plan, these remarkable statin drugs help do just that. And there is another benefit as well, this one psychological. As you embark on this nutrition plan, you yourself are in control, as Joe Crow and Abe Brickner learned. And the empowering effects of being able to see dramatic improvement quickly over just a matter of weeks are impossible to overstate. You have numerical proof in the form of radically lower cholesterol levels that you are conquering the disease that was destroying you. But remember, the drugs alone are not enough. In Chapter 5, I cited a study recently reported in the New England Journal of Medicine in which huge doses of statins successfully reduced patients' cholesterol levels below 150. But even so, as their diet never changed, 1 out of 4 of the subjects experienced a new cardiovascular event or died within 30 months. Unlike the drugs, plant-based nutrition has beneficial effects far beyond reducing cholesterol levels. It has a mighty impact on a host of other risk factors as well: obesity, hypertension, triglyceride, and homocysteine levels. It enables the endothelium to heal and renew itself and allows once clogged arteries to dilate and replenish the heart muscle they serve. It makes you heart attack proof. It doesn't get much better than that. So, all of that information is tremendous. So if you're starting this journey and you're thinking, hey, you could eat in moderation, and I myself have been guilty of that. I've been on this journey now for, a little over 2 years. I've lost close to 100 pounds, and I still have about another 100 to go. And it is not an easy journey. And if you are failing, I don't want you to get down on yourself. You have to wake up every single day and start anew. And do not give up, because this is a wonderful, wonderful opportunity for you to recapture your health. And just every single day is a journey. Listen, I had 3 clogged arteries. My heart was healthy. I got very lucky. And, having a nuclear stress test about a year and a half ago, everything looked great. And I'm going to go and get my blood results. I'm going to go get some blood tests at the end of this week that I'll post online. And I'm hoping everything's going to look great. I personally can be a little bit more committed. I would say 98% of what I do is plant-based. Every once in a while, I have to admit, I dip out, and it's not, I don't do a weekend thing. If a few times a year, I might have a slice of pizza or something, or maybe a steak, and I'm desperately trying to become a full-time vegan, And even if you do eat a piece of steak or a piece of chicken once a year, not full time. So I do want to make that full transition, and I'm getting better at it. I have a food addiction, I always have, and it's not easy. I have a love affair with food. I love to eat food, and it is not easy to just walk away completely from these things that make you feel great. So I'm battling that as well, and that's really difficult. But I don't give up. Every day I get up and I make sure I implement my 3 non-negotiables. One is nutrition. I start that off every day. The second is exercise. It's important because that impacts the body. Third is education. I educate myself by reading these books. And those 3 things impact my perspective, my attitude, and then my behavior. So every day my behavior is changing. It's getting tighter, it's getting stronger, it's getting more committed, more loyal to going from this standard American diet to this lifetime of eating plant-based and then helping others do the same thing. And you'll see in a year I'll drop another 100 pounds. I'll be in superior shape, maybe the best shape of my life, possibly. And I will be far more committed. Like Dr. Esselstyn says, he has some peanut butter, cups once a year. I'd like to get to that place where, maybe once or twice a year I treat myself to a little meal that I typically wouldn't do. And, that's a whole hell of a lot better than, 150 times a year. I'm kind of under the belief system that if you're, 99% of the time during the year, you're eating healthy, you're keeping your cholesterol levels really low, and your inflammation levels are really low, because that's something that's really important to understand. So when you're getting into this, you want to know what your C-reactive protein levels are and your homeostasis levels. And you want to drink things like this, something that Esselstyn doesn't talk about, and I wish that he would, but hydrating with lemon and turmeric is extremely, extremely healthy, and it brings down your inflammation levels. Meditating is a big part of that, trying to be stress-free. When you live a stressed life, your inflammation levels go up. And you should do things that help reduce your inflammation levels. And do the research on it. Dr. Esselstyn, listen, he's fantastic, and I beg people to go out and get his book, but there are other fantastic people in this field that could teach you other things as well. Esselstyn is focused specifically on the food, but there are great foods that help reduce inflammation, such as turmeric, such as lemons, such as water, such as pineapples are great for reducing inflammation. So just think about all of those things. So next episode, we're going to be reading Chapter 9, Frequently Asked Questions. So look for that, and let's get healthy together. Peace.